Hello, nonprofit leaders. I'm Sarah Olivieri, your host, and this podcast is here to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders make a bigger impact with insights, tips, and lessons learned from nonprofit leaders and experts. Having been an executive director, a board member, and now a consultant and coach, I truly understand the challenges you face. And that's why I'm here. I'm all about working smarter, not harder, so you can make a bigger impact without the burnout. And so is our sponsor, DonorBox. DonorBox isn't just a suite of helpful fundraising tools, it's a partner that helps you raise more money and supports you in retaining your donors. I love their forward-thinking approach. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. And don't forget to sign up for the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter, where you'll get bite-sized, actionable tips just for nonprofit leaders like you, delivered weekly to your inbox. Sign up at inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. My guest for this episode is Charity Fain, who has over 25 years of experience building stronger, more resilient communities in the U.S. and around the world. She is currently the executive director of CEP, where she's responsible for overall leadership and management, ensuring financial stability and growth, setting policy positions, and advancing strategic direction with the board. I'm sure that sounds familiar to many of you listening. Prior to her work there, she was also the executive director at the City Club of Portland. And before moving to Portland, she served as the country director for Internews Network in Kyrgyzstan, which she will pronounce even better than I can for us, where she directed a program to build stronger journalists, radio stations, and public interest television. She has a BA in International Relations from the American University in Washington, D.C., and also speaks Russian. Welcome, Charity. It's such a pleasure to have you. Before we dive into things nonprofit leadership, will you just tell us a little bit more about yourself personally?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on today. Yeah, I live now in Portland, Oregon, but I'm originally from a very small town in northern Texas. So that maybe isn't what people are thinking they're going to hear from. So I might explain a little bit if I have a southern accent. And I would say something personal that I have now for, 12 years. I'm a ballet mom. I have a daughter who's a very serious ballet dancer, and even my 13-year-old son dances. So all of my time, if it's not at work, is kind of dealing with ballet.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. And I was curious, as a speaker of Russian, how did you come to learn Russian? Was that part of your studies?
Yeah, I graduated high school in 1990 as everything in Eastern Europe was changing, and wanted to study international relations, which is what I have my degree in. And when I entered university, the professors were like, here's an area of opportunity. So I studied Russian in college, and I had been a very big fan of like Tolstoy and other Russian authors. So I studied abroad in Moscow in 92, right after the Soviet Union fell. And then I worked in the former Soviet Union and lived there for most of the 90s and through 2007. So the first half of my career was in the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So learned it in college and then used it in my work, and then I lived in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and Russia.
Yeah. I'm wondering, are there lessons that you learned in living in another culture, in another country, that you carry into your leadership practices today?
Yeah, absolutely. Where I work now at Community Energy Project, we really, really, really are focused on, well, in our name, community. And the work I did abroad was really about understanding different cultures and community needs, and kind of listening to people, and really thinking about how the communities you serve are really experts in their lived experience and in their needs. And I think sometimes in some nonprofits I've worked in kind of forget that.
Yeah.
right? That we're really in partnership with the communities we serve, and we have to learn from and listen to just as much as like we're bringing a community service or need to help someone.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really something working abroad that I tried to take and learn through that process that I've really brought here.
Yeah, that's so important. I studied international studies in college, which is like the non political side of international relations. And I really had a similar experience. I was focused on globalization and its impacts on, places that have been called third world countries or marginalized countries. And I remember, especially at the time, there was this like, people would talk about these places as like backwards or like back in time. And it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But after like living, I spent a semester in Africa and a semester in Cuba, very, very different places. But was just like these people are living in their version of the modern day, and they have very modern problems. Yes, some of them have like more kind of basic need things going on, like in East Africa where I was. People still made a lot of houses out of mud and they would get washed away during the rainy season. But that doesn't mean that they aren't also, that they're somehow living 1,000 years ago. They are still living today. And they have very modern problems related to global exchange markets. And, at the time, like China was really starting to come into Africa and do big business there. And yeah, it was just really, I totally agree with what you said. And it's so important that we recognize the wisdom that communities have in them about what they really need and what's going to work for them. And I found in my own travels, I could really see when people just kind of came in from the outside and were like, we know better. They did
Yes,
not know better. And those projects failed miserably. When I was
yes,
there, I shared about the mud huts. It wasn't that hard to rebuild their houses. They would have preferred brick if they could afford it. But the Italians had come in near where I was, built this brand new highway, spending millions and millions of dollars. First rainy season comes, the highway is flooded out. And now instead of like a mucky road, they have this horrific, impassable, like broken asphalt thing that like they definitely left things worse
yeah.
than when they started. So I want to ask you about, before we dive into a little more of your leadership lessons, whenever I have a CEO or executive director, I love for you to just share with us a little like the current size of your organization, how many staff you have, how many programs you have. Just give us the lay of the land so other leaders listening to you can think like, okay, like, does this apply to my size, and just kind of right size the information you're sharing.
We're this year about $6 million and have about 35 staff. And I've been at Community Energy Project now for 12 and a half years. And when I started, we had about 9 employees and a budget of about 600,000.
Yeah.
So over those 12 years, we've grown a lot.
That is big. Well, maybe you can share as you think about what are some of the kind of key levers that you pulled or things that you did to help grow that budget and grow that team.
Yeah, you think about what you learn at each kind of job. Each job gives you hope, right? Some skills that you learn. And my first job in Portland, like you said, was at a place here called the City Club of Portland. And it dealt with public policy. But what I kind of think, something I took away from there, was that a lot of things in Portland are really decided or discussed in a lot of local committees, government committees, all kinds of committees, right? It's a very participatory state. And I liked that, and also had frustration in that I wanted to feel more connected to direct service work. And at CEP, we do a lot of, we do direct service by providing materials and knowledge and information to people. And when I started, I was like, well, you need that connection actually to public policy. And the people making public policy need to understand and hear from the direct service orgs.
Yes.
Because what I've found is that, a new legislation may be passed that sets up a grant program, and they don't understand, the people doing that don't understand what it's like to actually be on the ground and do the work.
Yeah.
And there's often a disconnect. So I started putting myself and any staff interested on every committee we could find. So we started to influence,
Mm,
through advocacy work and through rulemaking processes on new programs at the state and city level, what a program might look like, how it might be structured, educating a lot of people. We heard a lot of, you talk about, you brought up your example in Italy, but when you're working in the United States with low income populations, with immigrant populations, with communities of color, often there's such a disconnect about real life experiences and needs and the people making policies that impact these communities.
yeah.
And it's the same kind of often arrogance that you found, and I saw too, in international development.
Yeah.
So, like, taking those, really, you got to listen, really, you got to understand, and that we needed as an organization to be proactive because we were sitting on a lot of knowledge and our own experiences in org that we wanted to change the way things were created and influence in a positive way where funding decisions were made when, like, government entity would decide what to fund.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, they pass a new program, or there's a new rule and they create up administrative burdens, right? For all of us sitting in a nonprofit, you get this new opportunity and you're just like, man, they have no clue. Whoever designed this has no clue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they,
Totally.
the reporting requirements for $10,000 are worse than the reporting, take more time to report than it did to do the work,
Right. Right. Yeah.
right? So, like, I just really wanted us to be sitting in those groups that were making decisions
Yeah.
so that people had to listen to us. And we just spent a lot of time doing that, and sitting in spaces, honestly, where on some subjects, like, we got very involved in Oregon Community Solar, we knew nothing. Being vulnerable and being accepting that, like, you can go into those spaces where you are not the subject matter expert and you know
Mm,
nothing, and it is okay to say, yeah, I don't know this, but you don't know low income households needs and realities.
yeah.
And if we're going to build something, you need to respect us as subject matter experts in our area and also listen to us, and we'll come into the space and learn the technical side of this as well.
Yeah.
And that was not always easy, I'll be honest, but it was so crucial in really starting to expand what opportunities there for us to apply to. And then I really think to really start to have some cultural and structural changes in the policy landscape
Mm,
in the
yeah.
state level here.
I think that's so powerful. Perhaps I'm going this way because of our conversation about these other countries we've been to, but I can't help but draw, like, a similarity to colonialism, but in the good
100%.
way, right? Like, it's like you're
Yes.
like, we are representing, we are those underserved, and we're now going to colonize, the policy makers to make sure our voices are heard. I mean, I think of that because in colonialism, that was the thought, especially, like, you'd send people to go live in the new place so that they could represent your interests there and you could get a stakehold there. So I love how you've done that and used that and really gotten your staff involved.
Yeah, for me, what another just kind of fundamental thing is how important it is, the people, not just in the community, the people in the org.
Mm, yeah.
Right? The mental health, the emotional health, that we pay people
Yeah.
for our work and our expertise and that we celebrate. It's hard work. It is really hard work to work with immigrant and low income communities right now in
Yeah.
this country.
Yeah.
And it is a heavy toll on the people who do that work.
So, mhm. I want to ask you, what are some of the decisions you've made or practices that have worked for you or that you've tried and didn't work in supporting your people, paying them well, dealing with the increased stress of the current time and the people they're helping?
I We have this really amazing program in Portland that's called the Portland Clean Energy Fund that was created by a ballot measure initiative of environmental justice organizations that has a really strict minimum wage requirement of 180% of minimum wage. And we're a group that helped that program get started. We're an environmental justice organization ourselves. And I could have taken the approach that anyone working, like we got grants for Portland Clean Energy Fund. And so we have to pay any employee who works on that program 180% of minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, it's not fair for staff if I only pay the people working on that program
Yeah.
that wage. So that wage became our minimum. And that was a big leap as it happened, right?
Yep.
But we've fundraised and figured out how to make that work. You get less turnover, you get better qualified applicants. It starts to pay for itself.
Yeah.
And I think often in the nonprofit world, there's been this idea that, like, you're nonprofit, you shouldn't make money. Like, we also shouldn't have staff that qualify for our services
That's right.
because we pay so little,
Yeah. I'm
right? Like, we want to uplift our community. That means we have to uplift the people who work for us too.
yeah. And I'm so glad that you shared, that you do have less staff turnover and it has started to pay for itself because there are at this point quite a number of coaches and consultants like myself who advocate for this and we tell people that's going to happen. But I think we need to hear it more from the mouths of the people who've done it. It always feels so scary. They're like, oh my God, we're permanently raising our expenses. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody I know who's done it pays for itself and then some when you have better people, when you have less turnover, when you start to, attract top talent from the for-profit sector. And it
I
does.
have to
Yeah.
challenge that.
Go
Top
ahead.
talent from the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
Top
Yeah.
talent for me, I don't think just because you've been in for profit that you're more talented.
No, absolutely not. I agree with you 100% on that. But I do know a number of talented people who left the nonprofit sector
Yes,
because
that does
the
happen.
pay was so little.
I
And I know
agree.
a bunch of successful entrepreneurs, they just did the math and they're like, well, I can make money and donate more back than I can do working like for a subpar wage. So I think probably not so much attract, but like we do lose talent from the
We do
nonprofit
lose talent.
space from underpaid
Really good
people.
people.
Yeah.
And I also look at what are those like. I when I started, we didn't have a big budget. We didn't have a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what were the benefits could I give people of value? Time,
Yeah.
flexibility in schedules, understanding, like before remote work became a thing, we had remote work, especially for people with children or someone at home they had to take care of.
Yeah.
We don't watch the clock. I tell my staff, you're an adult. I treat you like an adult. You treat me like an adult. Like, is your work getting done? Like, quality. I just, it's like that respect
Yeah.
for your people. And if you have someone who isn't, then you deal with that.
Yeah.
But I don't want a culture in the organization where we're assuming the worst of everyone and setting up draconian policies to catch everyone,
Yeah.
right? I want a place where people feel supported because everybody who comes to work for us cares, right? They care. It's not that people who enter nonprofit work care,
Yeah.
but you also have family and life and things you've got to pay for.
Yeah.
So let's make our a sector be a place where that can happen too. It's really important to me. And if that means policy changes, again, there was a grant program that came out in the state in our sector, They decided at the state level that 10% of the grant funds could be spent to admin, which we all hear. They
Yeah.
included literally everything in admin except for like salaries, like all the stuff that you would have as program expense. No, they're like, no, that's all admin. And I'm like, okay, on a $250,000 grant, how do you think I'm going to do any of it?
Yeah.
How do you think we're going to pay someone to do this when you've decided over there, never working here, that this is enough money? And I had someone say from the state, well, we do that. And I'm like, and you have $250 million. And then you've got to use 10%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so like that advocating all the time, even about just like, here's a reality. We shouldn't have to live in poverty ourselves to serve a community and to help our community, because at the end of the day, all of the work that we do is about making our place a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to hear you like pushing back. And I hate to like add to any of our listeners' plates, but I do think, right, we all in the nonprofit space, we need to push back against that paradigm that we can and should be martyrs for our causes, right? It
100%.
doesn't do anybody any good. In fact, it does a lot of damage to attempt to just accept that we're going to run an underfunded organization. Lives are on the line here. People being fed and healthy and having a roof over their head, and sometimes like literal life and death, disease, mental health, lives are really on the line, and we need to advocate for all of this, and push back. And I'm curious how you found this, but I've found that when I see those policies that don't make sense, or things from funders or questions from donors, it doesn't take a lot of explaining to educate them, right? It really just takes a little, and then they're like, oh, of course I'm on your side. Like, it's not really, maybe in like government policy, it can take longer, but it's not the hardest obstacle to get over if you start having conversations. What has your experience been with changing people's minds?
Yeah, I think just being transparent, right? And yeah, talking about and educating people like that. That's why some of what I do myself as an advocate on issues isn't just around like the subject matters that we do, but around like, okay, that grant we've got to fix, or this program. And we did go back on this one I was talking about, and we went into the legislature the next year and changed some of those rules.
Yeah.
It's like the money didn't get bigger, but it just became like more realistic about how you should structure a grant.
Absolutely.
And look, we do yearly full financial audits, right? We're very careful. We have good financial systems. You still got to be financially responsible.
Mm-hmm.
This is public money or other people's donations. Like, you need to be strong in your operations and strong on your financial side. But I don't like the assumptions that are often made about nonprofit worlds that we're like, you're not a business. Like, I've had people say, well, if you have to worry about making payroll, I'm like, I do worry about payroll. I do. I have had times like where, like it was month to month managing cash flow. Like, you actually do that in a nonprofit. And sometimes it's even harder because I can't just go out and sell more.
That's right. Oh my God. I mean, I've said it before, but maybe not in a while. Like, and people always love it. Like, nonprofits are not only just businesses, they are more complex as businesses than their for-profit counterparts. So if you're running a nonprofit, you're probably better at business than those for-profits over there.
And it's a lot to juggle, right? It's a lot to juggle.
And beyond just being a lot to juggle, because like you said, the money doesn't come in direct correlation to the quality and need for the services.
Yep.
We have this situation, I call it like weak signals, right? In a for-profit business, if you're delivering a service or product that nobody needs or wants, or it's bad, your bank account drops and you get a very clear signal very quickly that something's wrong. But that doesn't happen. You can have great programs and great impact and not quality fundraising, messaging, tactics, and not have money. Or it can be the opposite. You can have plenty of money and still not have great services and offers.
Mhm.
That happens less often, but it certainly happens. It happens in the foundation space. Many foundations are well funded and struggle to make an impact through their model, like
Sure.
we've been talking about. So the signals are weak, and so it gets muddied, like when, and they take a longer time to reach us. Like, is something wrong or not? We really have to go, I think, looking much more proactively for issues in nonprofits than we do in for profits, because in for profits they become obvious pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I look it up. You know, different. It's just we're not here to make a profit. So right, those kind of signals are harder. And like,
Yeah,
if we were all as successful if we could ever be, there would be a no need for us anymore.
yeah, yeah,
Right? If we designed a different system in the whole structure of our society, like we wouldn't need some of the services we provide. And I think most of us doing that work would be like happy with that. If there wasn't the need for, if we weren't needing to address climate change the way we are, if we weren't needing to address lack of access to health care or affordable food or whatever kind of your social service nonprofit is working on, we'd all be happy. Like we'd be happy for that, you
yeah,
know? So it's
absolutely.
like just a different mindset, and it's just a different, like we're working towards a mission, and there's lots of systems around that we all have to operate in that can make that harder.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I don't like that, like you could, like you're saying, like you might have the best program that's doing really great work, and every application for new grants you want to apply for, they want to see what new thing you're doing. It's
yeah.
like, actually, we don't need to do something new. We just need to like keep providing this excellent service, and for you to make me rebranded or new every, like, is kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are pretty much coming up on time. I want to ask you, as you think about being an executive director, you've done this for so many years. What's the one kind of skill or piece of the puzzle that you feel like if executive directors master kind of starts to make everything else easier or unnecessary?
Huh, we have to wear so many hats. I don't know if there's one thing, but again, I think I just really have learned to really try to focus on the team and the people around me.
Yeah.
And that's, as ED, you can't do everything yourself. You've got to learn to delegate and trust that the people who are on your team are great and qualified and also dedicated. And there's times when there has to be collective decisions made, and there's times when you have to make the decision on your own. So just, accepting that you can't be an expert in everything as an ED, right? You can't do everything personally. It's okay that that my finance person knows more than me. That's why I hired him,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I think sometimes people get kind of, especially new EDs, maybe get kind of caught in that like
Yeah.
they try to do everything. I think they have to know everything. Like I can't, and that's fine. Like my team knows collectively we are a good team, and we know, and we, work through issues as they come up. We're all people at the end of the day. But that is just like one of the biggest things I think I've learned over the years. And then if you have that team, when the hard times come, because they do for all of us, one way or another, there's more resilience built into the organization,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And you can handle it on your mental health yourself. There's a lot of burnout in EDs.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, great words of wisdom. For those who want to hear more of what you're up to and your wisdom, who should be reaching out, and what's the best way to do that to be supportive without overburdening you?
Yeah, you can go and check out what we do at our organization at communityenergyproject.org, or I'm on LinkedIn, Charity Fain. So feel free to contact me personally. I always like to connect with folks. You know, as we mentioned, I've worked all around the world as you have, so I have connections all over in a few different fields. So it's always nice to make those connections of like-minded people and just support each other. And those connections matter.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Charity, and thank you out there for listening and everything you do to make our communities better and make our nonprofit community better. I wish you all the best. Take some time for yourself, give some love to your team, and I will see you next time on our next episode.
You've been listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode or the bonus episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share with your friends and colleagues. Tune in every week for more useful insights and wisdom on nonprofit leadership. Thanks so much for all you do for the communities you serve. Until next time, all the best.